You said you come from the north, and then I saw you in the south. I thought your eyes were blue, but was the one behind those black eyes also you? You also said you were a boy, but I met a lady with your voice. You were born in 62, although my friend's grandfather looks just like you. Why do you call?
Hey there, everybody. This is Mark Fonseca Rendeiro with you. You're listening to the Realities Podcast channel, if we can call it a channel. I've never called it that before, but I'm calling it that because it could be different kinds of programs, podcasts on this channel. So, for example, today, this is a reality check. Now, that's a new concept from my little home studio, and the idea is it's just a short one. So it's so short that I'm calling it a reality check. And when we do the longer interviews, those are going to be just Realities Podcast. That'll usually involve a second person. But here, these quick check-ins, I'm calling them reality checks. And as I said, I'm your host, Mark Fonseca Rendeiro. If you're old guard, hey, it's me. I'm around. I've been doing things. I just haven't gotten this whole thing squared away in just the right way. I'm actually working on a little test here. I'm using two microphones, my old microphone, my reliable Rode, and my new microphone, potentially, if I keep it, an Electro Voice, which is kind of a very common one in the broadcast industry. And so what I can do is switch to the new one. So here I'm talking on the new microphone. I hope that I sound decent. And then as we go on in the program, I can switch, like right now, to the old mic, old reliable that maybe I shouldn't give up on. In the end, they may be quite similar. So what I might do is just go back to the new one. Yeah, there we go. We're back to the new one. So yes, this is a podcast just involving me, a little catch-up. We got Maita Larburo singing in the background with help from Josh, and they're called Neighbor. I highly recommend them. One of the funnest things, by the way, of putting together not just this podcast, but the whole setting the groundwork, because there will be more podcasts, is having approached friends who are musicians and also people I don't know that well, but I know a little who are musicians, and asked if I can use their music on my program. And I've gotten a bunch of yeses. So in the next few episodes, as we go along, you'll get to hear a lot of that music. Oddly enough, some people, due to constraints in the copyright/contract world, have required me not to mention their names if I use their music, but yes, that I could use their music. So that's going to happen sometimes too, but I won't even talk about it when it happens. So there you have it. But yes, I'm here in Amsterdam. If you're a new person, perhaps you didn't know, I live in Amsterdam. You know, I've been here. Get ready for this. I've been here for 14 years. We're about to start my 15th year. Have you been anywhere for 15 years? Well, maybe you're right where you were 15 years ago. I just it's one of those things. As time goes on, you can be a little bit shocked by it, and so I'm not shocked by it. But just now when I wrote it down, it's like, oh yeah, here in Amsterdam, here in the heart of the touristic industry, where the battle against Airbnb is in full swing, I guess. I don't know. I don't talk to them. I say hi. That's about it. I guess that's talking to Airbnb guests. But they're around. And let's see. I have just been working on, for the last few days, the latest Source Code Berlin. Now, if you don't know, that's a podcast I do with Wikimedia Deutschland, or for Wikimedia Deutschland. It's an interesting arrangement where I interview and record and edit and publish a podcast with the theme of Wikipedia or open source or any variation on that theme, projects, people, voices. And actually, in about 24 hours, I'll be leaving for Wikimania, the yearly gathering of Wikipedians, and it's taking place on Lake Como in Italy. And if you've been listening to this podcast for the last 12 years, you'll remember when many of us were in Lake Como for Vlog Europe, where we discussed video blogging, and all the various podcasters and video bloggers went, and I recorded a few shows from there. It's been a long time. You probably don't remember that. even if you were listening. But that's going to be the big trip this week, and I'll get to meet Wikipedia/Wikimedia people from all over the world. I got to tell you, I'm very interested, for example, meeting people from the US, because I left the US when I was 21 years old, 22. So I didn't know Wikipedia people then and not there. And here in the Netherlands and Germany, I've gotten to meet so many and sometimes work together, or at least be at the same conferences together with people. I'm also eager to meet the people from Italy, Wikimedia Foundation there. Russia, that's going to be an interesting one. I guess if I start listing them, I'm interested in meeting these Wikipedia people from all over the world. So I hope that they'll be there. I imagine many will. And the interesting thing also for this gathering, as far as I know, because remember, sometimes we as podcasters don't verify everything we talk about. But the word is that it's in this village. Now that I do know. It's in a village on Lake Como. And this village has a couple of thousand people. It's a village. But apparently in their bid to host Wikimania, they said, hey, instead of choosing a major city, choose us. Our village loves Wikipedia. We use it all the time. We teach with it. I don't know, all these things that they do with it. And if you choose us, we will be completely in. Everybody in the village will be involved. You'll stay in our homes. I don't know. This might be an exaggeration of a story, but that's the story I heard. And I am very excited, even just to see that name, Encino Lario, on my ticket. So that is going to be most interesting. So yes, the latest Source Code Berlin is on the subject of doctors and teaching with Wikipedia, teaching the future doctors of the world, as well as publishing in open access journals. So that's going to be good. Still to come on this podcast, many people might be wondering, there's Masood Husseini, my dear friend from Afghanistan, photographer and citizen of the world. And I do have that interview just about ready. I've just, the more you do something, the more you can get very picky about it. So things I used to say, that's okay, let it ride. More and more I say, no, wait. And I listen back and I might adjust things. I do more editing than I've ever done in my entire career. And I don't know if it's a good thing, to be honest. Maybe you guys have thoughts on that. Do you miss the days where I wouldn't edit anything and we would just talk? Well, that if you miss that, you're going to enjoy this here reality check, because I refuse to edit reality checks. I'll add the music. Even that I think I did in real time just now. So this is going back to the roots of podcasting where you didn't edit. And maybe some of you don't miss those days because there was so much extra time spent listening to, chit-chat. So there's that, Masood Husseini. I got a lot of feedback from a program published right here on this channel, my Realities podcast with Eric Duisberg, the Frisbee player. Interesting thing about that feedback, first of all, most of it came face-to-face, and that's rare, of course, in our internet world. But it was also that it was Frisbee players. I play Ultimate Frisbee, not at the top level or anything, but I play as best I can and often, and with some talented people, and many of them tuned in to listen to the Eric interview. Whether or not they had ever heard any other podcast I had ever done, they heard that one and gave me positive comments, gave me constructive criticism. A good buddy of mine, Mark, gave me pages of observations. Yes, I got pages of observations. Thank you, Mark. And potential things that I could do if I want to improve, because that's always the question. How do you improve this thing, Mr. Know-It-All, making podcasts for 12 years? Are you sure you're doing it correctly? Are you sure you're asking good questions, or are you wasting our time? Right? That's one of the questions. So I'm always checking on that. I don't care how many years have gone by. I have this feeling I could do this better. You know that feeling? Whatever it is that you've been doing for a while, you're like, I could do this better. That's my feeling lately. So I'm exploring ways to do it better. And that will be, that was the last podcast. So what it does make me wonder about is here we have the Frisbee community. They're not at least not all of them, not my usual listeners, but okay, because the topic of playing Ultimate Frisbee, even though I don't think you needed to be a player to understand what he was talking about, but that brought them in, right? So that makes me wonder, like, wow, I like that connection. So if I want to have more people talking about this program, do I need to bring more Frisbee players to talk about the sport in some way that still works for non-Frisbee players? At this point, it's not in my plans to do that, but I see the power and the value of that, and it's interesting. I can't ignore it. It's a nice feeling. It's like the old days, when people come up to you and talk about the podcast. I like that. I like to, on the one hand, talk to myself, which is what I'm doing right now. On the other hand, to have this message received and have it interpreted, have it mean something, have it cause some kind of reaction, hopefully positive one. So that's kind of a potential strategy, right? Like I'll have, of course, journalists, of course, writers, of course, thinkers, people who put passion into what they do and have a goal in their lives. And I'm curious about all these goals, but also maybe, the occasional Frisbee player who also has a goal. And then here come the Frisbee players, right? And maybe they'll stay. They'll stay for the other podcasts. So maybe that's a strategy. I don't know. Okay, a couple of last notes and then we'll get out of this quick reality check. I wrote a post on Medium. I do that sometimes. I like Medium. I know it's been around for a while now, but the format still feels so much lighter than a website/blog. I've been trying to make, for example, realitispodcast.com feel a bit like Medium or light in terms of what's in front of you. Get right to the point. Not to say that you can't handle some details, but I want these experiences to be clear. Too much of the internet is unclear or over information. Look at Facebook. Don't look at Facebook. How about that? That's actually what my Medium post was about. It's about this whole way that we're constantly expressing ourselves, personal thoughts to individuals. We put them as our status message. Why do we do that? And are we missing out on something actually by making everything public, even especially when it's a message for someone in our lives? Why not just tell the person? Why are we writing it so everyone else can read? Is there something going on here where we're trying to prove we're happy, trying to prove we have joy? And what does it mean? So it's like a psychological / technological issue, and I know you know this issue. You've seen it happening on the old face space, maybe on the Twitter. So I read about that. It's on Medium. I publish there under the name Bicycle Mark. As you may know, that is my internet handle. Still gets used. And anything else of importance? No. This is going to be reality checks. I'm going to put them in between Realities podcasts. I'm interested in guests. I have one or two in mind. I was going to say lined up, but that's not true. Every time I think I have them lined up, something happens. Oftentimes we get to talking and we don't record because that happens, life. But anyway, if you have suggestions, by all means, Skype is a connector, or I can travel because there is always a chance for me to travel in the near future. But the first big trip is going to be Italy and Lake Como. So stay tuned. In the coming week after Wikimania, I will have Masood Husseini, the great Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer from Afghanistan. Yes, an overdue program, but it's coming. And then after that, maybe we'll hear from someone at Lake Como. Meanwhile, you can go to sourcecode.berlin. That's where there's going to be content coming out. And for all the old citizenreporter.org fans, that's my old publishing place that still exists. I'm going to put this one in that feed. So maybe this is the first time you hear about Realities Podcast, well, the website is realitiespodcast.com. Or why don't you do what's more convenient? Go into whatever podcast player you use. There's probably a directory. There should be. I love Pocket Casts. I recommend it. If you go to Pocket Casts, or in your iPhone, you hit the podcast app, or in your Android phone, you hit the podcast app, you should be able to add podcasts. Look for Realities Podcast. I'm there. I have my lovely little R logo created by Studio Bar in Amsterdam. So I've got the logo, I've got the show, I've got the music. I may have the guests, and I hopefully have the audience. That's that. I will talk to you very soon. Thanks for listening. See ya.
It's very important that writers write in a real voice, in their own voice, but only if they're really good writers. And I have noticed, and surely even someone of your 10 years have noticed, that too many people are writing books, period. Okay? There are too many books, the books are terrible, and this is because you have been taught to have self-esteem.